This is the place, the making of modern Mormon myth. As noted earlier, not a single contemporary of Brigham Young ever thought to record any statements made by him on July 24, 1847. Thus, we may never know if he actually spoke the words, "This is the place." According to Wilford Woodruff, the Mormon prophet's famous phrase came in a private conversation between the two, an ailing passenger speaking to his driver. Since Brigham never publicly noted the discussion in his lifetime, we have only Woodruff's word upon which to rely. The Apostle Paul stated to the Corinthians, "In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall every word be established." Perhaps Brigham Young did say, "This is the right place." Even so, with only one man's testimony, the statement is merely hearsay and should not be considered as divine revelation. It does not meet the requirement of witnesses described in the Bible, the text upon which all Christian theology is based. So what exactly did President Young have to say as a matter of public record about his experiences in 1847? On the 10th anniversary of the Pioneers' arrival in Salt Lake Valley, more than 2,500 Latter-day Saints convened the 24th of July in the tops of the mountains. This multi-day camp, presided over by Young himself, provided an opportunity to share his memories of the event. The Deseret News reports that on the 23rd, President Young made a few remarks recounting the mercies of God to this people in delivering them from the power of their enemies, in making the desert places blossom like the rose, and the sterile plains yield luscious fruits and golden grain, in loading the leaves of the trees and shrubbery with honeydew, and increasing our flocks and herds in a marvelous manner. After President Young had concluded his remarks, President Heber C. Kimball offered a prayer. No mention of "this is the place" is ever made, only that God helped them escape their enemies, and the success they'd had growing crops and livestock during the intervening years. Unfortunately, this is not a complete transcript of Young's speech, but merely a reporter's summary. Still, it's worth noting, the author is reporting what is viewed as the most significant points of the speech. And had Brigham Young said something like, "This is the place," it went entirely unnoticed by the church-owned newspaper. This suggests that the phrase, now popular today, had no relevance to the earliest Mormon settlers. Once again, I return to the July 24, 1870 speech President Young gave during a commemoration of the event. On this occasion, we do have his exact words in a complete transcript. Young states, "In April, 143 pioneers took up the line of march with our ox teams, with our cows, and with what we could pick up. We made our own roads from day to day and week to week. I was the one who hunted up the road. Heber C. Kimball, my first counselor, and myself took the lead to hunt the road and kill the rattlesnakes. When the wagons were in the mud, my shoulder was one of the first that ever lifted the wagon wheel. We pulled them out of the mud, sought our camping places, and cut our roads through these canyons, and located on this place about a half a mile south of this. We came up here, and looking around, we decided in a very few days that this should be the temple block. I will say here that Wilford Woodruff brought me into the valley sick in his carriage. He is our chaplain of the day who offered up the prayer. Professor Pratt came with instruments that we had purchased to take observations. He had his carriage loaded with them, and as we came along, he took observations. George A. Smith, the brother that has just spoken to you, was one of our right-hand men and one of the 12 apostles, but your humble servant had the honor to lead the company. We are the pioneers into these valleys." Brigham Young proudly declares that he was among the first to settle the valley, that he personally hunted the roads, that he was the first to help lift wagons from the mud. As quick as this man was to boast of his accomplishments, one can only be left to assume that he would have proudly been first to declare to the world his own prophetic proclamation of the event. He even describes being brought into the valley in Wilford Woodruff's carriage. But not once here does Young ever state that he affirmed, "This is the right place."